can we still make relationships? What are the parameters which make it happen? Let's put it like this. And I'm going to talk about some which just came up to my mind. I'm going to be talking about a sort of sacred femininity and maintaining the magic, about the nature of masculinity. I'm having all my papers here. I'm talking about making yourself, like converting yourself into the perfect date the other person wants to date, right? And I'm talking about the process of healing. I will point out a little, like 4 points about it. And in this process of changing your your energy, your vibration, to be in harmony with the vibration you want to get into, because it's really hard, and people commented in the comment section. It's really hard for people to maintain, to say, okay, Christina, here I get it and I got it and I'm trying and it works. Actually, there's all kinds of testimonies that changing works, that applying the techniques I'm giving you work, but then it's always like, oh, but it was just like a glance into that world, and then it's gone again. And it doesn't have to be like this, although it's part of the process. Let's get into it. If you like to subscribe, I love to have you. Give me a like if you think this is relevant material which YouTube should be playing in other people. And comment, because I love your comments. It's for whom I do all this, and I really love to hear from you. All right, let's get into it. Where to start? Oh my God. Why don't we get into relationships anymore, and what is missing? There's much stuff missing, but in this video I would like to connect to 2 ideas which have come up in the entire relationship community, and which has much to do with inner healing and with understanding everything I'm projecting out there is who I am. So I will always find a certain pendant, a certain how do you call this, like a certain complementary part of mine, but which is energetically on my vibrational level. Let's put it like this. I gotta drink tea, my dear people. All right. Sacred femininity. I don't know if you can relate to this term. We've come so far away from this beautiful idea of us as women being able, or returning to this, let's call it a state of mind, a state of being, returning to a sacred state of femininity, where we are loving ourselves again, where we are respecting ourselves again, where we are able to maintain this certain magic, which I put opposed to being needing somebody who will fulfill my needs. There's always a kind of need and always a kind of interaction, but it's more than anything someone who would fill my void. And not only that it should be one and only one person fulfilling what Esther Perel always says, what before did an entire village for us, right? This is like the sin of the nuclear family, that we are completely cut off of our family ties. We're having completely dysfunctional families. We're completely cut off of our communities, of our neighborhoods, mostly. We are cut off of social, let's put it like this, where you have to comply with certain moral or ethical or social, however you want to call them, rules and roles. Excuse me, please. Had to do the video. And where it has become very difficult to fulfill what all this networking, how we would possibly call this today. We do this only over a networking idea, which is social networks, which is social media, which is not the same, which is not the same. So we're completely cut off of all our social networks where women could relate to women. Let's put it like really basic and really like original, let's put it like that. Where women could go to women to talk their stuff, and there were older and younger women among each other, and the older ones would all give away their wisdom, they wouldn't talk that much, Some ages they're like talking more, those women, and there's older women possibly which would like transport the message only by like nodding with the head or saying having this like wise and knowledgeable look, which is enough to transport like a century of knowledge to the younger ones. So we're completely cut off of this. And even worse, when I'm now comparing, when I've started the video saying this channel and generally the narcissist theme is just popping up like a atomic bomb, then it is not enough that we're saying we are cut off of our let's say genuine relationships, natural communities, natural intergenerational living together, but we're living not only in dysfunctional families. I mean, dysfunctional, that's a sweet word, a sweet term to call it, narcissism. I mean, this is the sickest, you can't even call it evolution, but maybe it's an evolution. It's an evolution of personal interrelating, of what we would love to be, where we would love to be, love, relationships, relating, containment, and many, many, many more things. So we don't have that anymore, and we're having right now, again, excuse me, the worst part, we're having narcissistic relationships all over the place, in parental relationships and relationships, children towards their parents, and then we're having the partner relationships. So it is totally clear to everybody our relationships ain't working anymore. Actually, today I was passing like a big old store here in Germany, and they had like this big old sign out, and it said Singles Day sale or something, and I would have to look it up. I took a photo of it. I'm like, what? What is this glorification of being single? You know how this all started up with those single parties, and everybody thought, oh, this is fun, we can meet people and we can get into relationships again. I mean, I think they've become like not even popular anymore. They're like here and there, they pop up, but it's like over with it, because people understand it is not a question of meeting people, but it's a question of our most wounded inner self, our most wounded emotional parts, which are connecting. And the worse our communities get, the worse our world, let's say, gets in relating and in understanding what love means and which aspects love has. It's being scientifically researched right now, and people are researching it on the internet, so we can find this in Google. So since this isn't there anymore, people are looking like desperately to relate again, to find love again, to find family again, to maintain family, and to get old with each other in old age, to have somebody to rely on. We're having all kinds of services in this world, we're like socially so organized in most countries, but even in countries where there's not that much social security, let's put it like this, even there, since families have broken apart, there's so much security for older people to be taken care of by strangers, and nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. So many people say when they are talking about getting into relationships, what they wish for is not only relationship and family. Some of them just don't want kids anymore, but this is a different theme, because they want to work and they need to work and they know life is stressful and etc., etc. But what they really also want is to get old with somebody, and not fighting, and not with a narcissist, just having this. It's almost like this antique picture of an like really grown together couple, which have so much peace and harmony and are so clear in how they relate, and they're so I would like to introduce this term, so self-sacrifice. They had a life of so much self-sacrifice that they know each other so well, that they know so well how to relate to each other and how to deal with each other, exactly not on this high level of confronting and of being right, and having the right to, and wanting to push through their agenda by being, let's say, superior or more attended in the relationship. But to be there, to be forgiving, to be present, to be there for the other, to not being the pick, pack one, neither of them. And this is just really hard to find right now. And this is still something people dream of, or again, more and more. So I want to talk about not only the role of the woman finding back to her sacredness, which is not a woman, and maintaining the magic, which is not the woman who's all pickpacking, which is not the woman who's all, I'm having the right that you will now doing this and that, It is more this woman who knows to negotiate, who knows to maintain herself quiet at a moment where things are coming up emotionally for her, but to talk about them later, to know how to communicate. And sometimes it's not about communicating like verbally so much, but who understand. And this is also something which was transmitted through the generations of understanding there's men, they're different, and there's women, they're different. And how to take a man, how to be able to deal with a man. And this is what I meant when I was talking about an older woman being inside of this women's circle who would just be like, she would just do them. No, it's not, And everybody would understand, and they would figure it out because there was interaction, there was exchange, but it wasn't all about like scientific journaling or stuff like this. They had their science, excuse me, but they communicated this on a very different level. And now I also want to get into this role, just one part of the role of the nature of masculinity, which I think is really important to understand. Only this part, which is a form of self-sacrifice, and there's something to it which I really like. I love God, and I know many of you think there's a higher spirit, and there's something watching us and wanting us to live love and to create and to be creative and to have life, and to enjoy life. But there's a self-sacrificial part which inside of the nature of masculinity, which understands to be inclusively, to subordinate themselves to the will of God, which means to understand, to distinguish good from bad, to distinguish moral laws, to distinguish which is prudent to do or not, to distinguish many other things, to be wise, and to live their masculinity, which is just really a beautiful thing. And this like rational suffering, or sacrifice, which would be expected or is of the nature of man, has also something to do with responsibility. And I think this gets really to the core of it. And at the same time, like on the other side of this bar, where there's sacred femininity and this nature of masculinity, the bar, we need to talk about the sacred femininity is sacred as long as we know how to receive, not being so defensive and offensive and so rights driven and so disagreeable, but being the ones who are able to take, not for taking and not for being a victim in the relationship. Don't please get me wrong, but to be able to process things in the process and being very wise in how to guide a man, like with his like stoicism, and ourselves as women being all emotional and all communicative, and being able to guide him, but not from our totally hurt place, from our emptiness. This is not from where we do this. So here I'm coming back to this concept of I am getting who I am, I'm getting the pendant, the comparable, compatible partner of who I am. First on my femininity, masculinity scale, then on my distance and closeness scale, and then also on the scale of power or victimness. I don't want to declare here somebody has to do power or victimness, but if we're just talking about this excuse me, about this extreme of narcissistic relationships, of trying to be all empowered, of trying to be total power, of trying to victimize a person constantly, and trying to find like a balance in all this, and also finding this balance. And this is this idea of not riding and emotionally reacting on my wounds, on my, let's say, on my distance and closeness part, where we find each other being, let's say, really at home with, this is the closer this gets to what I know, and it doesn't show itself like this in the beginning, because we can have a way of going out and of showing ourselves, which is totally, how should I say this, like the contrary of what we really feel and what we really guard inside and what are really our strong negative emotions, and show this to the other partner. This is why it is so important to take our time to understand who the other person is, while each of us needs to look inside of themselves and heal, the man as much as the woman. And not only to heal our emotional wounds, which I consider to be more inside of this dimension of closeness and distance and power and victimness. Can I drink tea? But which is also has become now a path of understanding on this bar, on this stick of masculinity, femininity, where we need to understand how much a woman who should hopefully be in a very healthy and intuitive femininity. I'm not going to go completely into this right now, which attributes this could have if you want to put this now into like this rather oppressed idea of femininity, this is not how we see this today. But let's just put it like this. Femininity has also masculine energy. Women also have masculine energy. So if our energy is more like a whole lot inside of the masculine energy, with decision taking, with goal seeking, with activeness, with determining what to do and stuff like this, which is not to be in negotiation or having her feminine role on how to inform a man and how to brief a man and how to communicate. And the more she is in her masculine, the more she will find a man who is going to be in his feminine, like more towards the feminine side. So we need to do a totally new lecture of how to construct our love lives, our relationships. Getting all excited here. How to construct our relationships in these 3 dimensions, I call them, just to reduce them to something palpable, masculinity, femininity, ourselves, getting into feminine roles, maintaining this magic and this sacredness and this not claiming, you can claim, but not claiming rights and claiming to be attended, but to receive and to be this, let's say, this pool for the man who can like dive into her and be in her and to stand your ground in there and to be able to hold that, to first attract that and then to hold this, because there's so much emotional stuff going on, And then on the other hand, this man being able to be, to represent containment. And containment represents, among many other things, also a component of self-sacrifice and of responsibility. And this is so interesting. I mean, if we think about men can go to war, men can like do really heavy stuff work. Men have this stoic thing. Men, when they retreat, they go into their cave, and they don't want to talk like us. I mean, there's all these funny videos around, about women's and men's brains, and it's very true, So we have to understand, again, the nature of man. We have tried to erase that, to say, oh, well, our femininity and our masculinity, those are social constructions. True. Very true. Very true. But we've learned also that we have also like a hormonal part and a really DNA part, which determines us also. And we have understood that at the moment we learn to live our let's say, more natural, feminine and masculine ways of expressing this DNA, what is written into us, that we understand better how to get to this goal, to have families again and to have relationships which are lasting until the end of times, And this responsibility thing is really important on this, in this aspect. And good cough, huh? And a little bit has to do a little bit with denying how he feels to achieve that. Men can do this. We can't do this so really well, or we do it on a different scale, But men have this stoic chaser thing, like this going into the desert and living there and bringing and shooting wild beasts for their families, to nurture them, and how to get along with different men. It's just a very different scale. I mean, this is an entire topic. But the man can do this. They just shut down feelings. They don't shut down so much the sexuality, and we don't shut down so much our feelings, our emotionality and our way of communicating it. So we have to learn to hold this and to regulate this and to let it out at a pace where a man can receive this, and not being guided by our wounds, by our anger, and by our emptiness, by our negative expectations of how a person will treat us, and this is so much work to do. All right, so let me see. How to make myself into a perfect date. Why don't we get into relationships anymore? Now we're getting into this healing part. So I was just pointing out some small tiny points of where I want to discern on today. But how can I make myself into the perfect date where I maintain myself? It is more like subject to man, but this delaying gratification, to be generous and to be honest, instead of like insisting on our rights or running away from a healthy way of regulating ourselves in those dimensions of distance and closeness and of power and of understanding and establishing again or anew our roles, and which can definitely and will definitely be a process of growing together. But for this, I think we just have to draw ourselves again towards science, what science is finding out in this respect, So, what do I want to do? What do I want to reach inside a relationship? Think about what is important to you. Which is the person you imagine yourself to be? Write it down. Who you think you are, that you are so disappointed that the other person hasn't perceived you like this, because the other person at best saw you in a very different way and saw you in a way where you were exercising power, where you were not taking a certain responsibility for how you talked and felt and withdrew and accused and whatever it was, to be more on the line of asking for your rights, of being loved, of being taken the way you are, which is just coming from our wounds, So what I really want to encourage you is to see, what would you like this person to see you to be? And there's another part. What did this person tell you who you are and what you are or not once you are in conflict? Because you have assumed that you did the right thing. And sometimes it's not a question that we are so able to pinpoint it, or to put it into words. But to understand in this process, once we start learning again about the attributes which make relationships work or not work, that we understand who we need to become. And we don't become this, or we are not this yet, because we're still riding on our wounds, on our emptiness. I did other videos about this, so you can check those out. When you understand who you want to become in this relationship, like the most ideal self of yourself, describe the other person, not only yourself, describe the other person of who you want this person to be. And then become this person. become this person in the mirroring process of understanding, this is what I want, this is what I have wished for. I wanted you to be there, to be containment, to be magic still, to have a healthy sexual relationship, to be able to talk in a calm manner about our boundaries, about our closeness or the distance we need, about conflicts. Write it all out. Write all out who you want to be physically. If you want like a pretty guy or a pretty girl, are you that? Are you in your femininity or your masculinity while you're asking for your partner to be, when you're a man, to be very feminine, or when you're a woman, you ask your partner to be very masculine, to chase you, to be after you, to be a gentleman, to be understanding? Are you that? Are you the correspondent for that attribute you're looking for? We need to be very honest with ourselves. So the idea is to change our vibration into our energy, into an energy what we are in harmony with, and to maintain it. If we are looking for the goal, if we are looking for where we want to be, we need to become these people, and don't only just imagine them for a while, but to really to really dive into this process of becoming this. Excuse me. And to look at our wounds, to look at if this person, let's say, in a conflict, gets going and leaves me for a moment. Excuse me. How does that feel? How do I get confronted with my anxieties, with my depression, with my feelings of abandonment, with my sadness, with me feeling hurt, with me feeling incapable? So what does that do with me? And to then step into those emotions and to be there for yourself once these emotions come up and you want the other person to take care of you, to make you happy, to not having inflicted those emotions inside of you, which is basically not possible. Nobody can inflict on me emotions or emotional states or anger or anxiety or whatever this is, if I'm not prone to it, if this is not anything which lives inside of me, and when this is not something where I say, you did that. This is again the responsibility part, that we need to take care of ourselves, and this is also like a little bit of a self-sacrifice part, and of maintaining the magic, that we don't get into this accusing thing like, you did to me. I'm angry because you. I'm sad because you. I am, in anxiety and feel abandoned because you. It's like, get a little bit of self-containment, Understand a little bit that everything which goes on inside of me is mine. I bring it with. And there's something I haven't healed, that I'm so dependent on somebody having to, let's say, make my life, of somebody being the guardian of my emotions, which is really not like that. So stay, this healing part, this healing bonus, it's like this understand where your feelings come from. And not right here in the interaction. They pop up now, but they're just like a mirror of something which wants to come out, where we say, you put the finger into the wound. I got a drink. But it was my wound. So I need to understand what was happening now, and then I need to stay with myself, and I need to see what was happening here inside of me. And don't run. Don't look for the ways you have learned to, which was very adaptive for you, how you have learned to escape your emotions, by making you happy in a different way, or by escaping the specific emotion by becoming depressed, becoming anxious, getting into addictive behaviors, sexual behaviors, drinking chemical behaviors, whatever it is you're using, porn, whatever it is, risk behaviors, and as women being negative, letting out our anger and being resentful. Ooh, the bitterness of the woman's wound from unresponsible men is the bitterness, the resentment, and the anger. And these not responsible men are not sacrificing men. Those are not here. They're just the correspondence of what I knew how men are. So I looked for this man to be the same. I didn't look for being the same what I have grown up with, but my inner wounds, they don't permit, let's say, a different relating on those three scales: femininity, masculinity, distance and closeness, and power or victimness. So I choose exactly the energy which I know. So this is why it is on me to understand I need to heal first. And I can't do this to say, you did this and this is why I feel now like this. Of course, it regenerated it. Of course, there was something happening and we need to talk about this. Of course, we need to be careful with each other, But there is something which I need to understand in this process. If I want to learn to get into relationships again, both men or women, is to look into myself, is to understand what is the emotion which is coming up, which emotion is coming up right now, and where does it come from? Where did it originally originate? Can I drink again? Another thing, don't run after your partner to earn their love. Don't run after a partner to earn their love. This is not gonna function. You need to be able, and this is the final healing path. We need to start cultivating. It's so artificial that it's almost strange, that we have to teach this, but this is the path. We're coming out of these really abusive and hurtful relationships, these dysfunctional communities, and how we can contain ourselves now, each of us, is to cultivate self-love, to learn to hold ourselves, to multiply, let's say, the sources from which I draw love, satisfaction. I'm not talking about sexual satisfaction. Watch out, because this is exclusive. But somebody who holds my emotion with me, or more people, this can't be a one-on-one thing. How we create nuclear families, where the husband has to take care completely of every need of the wife and the wife of the husband. This is not working. I mean, you need to be like a really, really grown couple, where how we, sometimes we glorify this so much, and it is to glorify when we're thinking about these really old grown couples which are in total harmony and have figured it all out, and there's no spikes anymore in this emotionality, and they have, opened their hearts completely and let the other person in, and they've become one, Of course you want that. I want that too. We all want that. But to get there, we need to cultivate self-love and build multiple relationships where we can heal, and where we can fulfill our needs together. you know, not to get so hard on each other, to expect from the other person to heal all our baggage we're bringing into this relationship. Okay? Once I know where I want to go and get, this is really important. I need to level up. When you're saying, well, I know what I want, you know, if I put boundaries, or if I get into self-love, or if I get into receiving mode, the women, or if the men notice I'm getting into chasing mode, I'm getting into my masculinity again, and I can't get out of the relationship without this woman distrusting me, you know, and she still trusts me, and she still respects me, and she still shows me how much she loves me, and he starts to do this again, so he starts, you know, chasing again, and he starts pursuing again, and he starts to, you know, penetrating again, first into my ear with all the love and all the tenderness, and telling the woman that she's beautiful and that he loves her, although he said it already at the first date. You're just gonna say it again, you know. It's just how we need to learn to be again. And when we experience those moments, which I just told you about, you know, setting boundaries, being in our receptive part, coming into the penetrating part, which is totally, let's say, containment and total responsibility, and delaying gratification, because it is not right away the sexual part. But if the man learns to penetrate the woman's ear and the woman's emotionality and the woman's feelings first, you guys are going to have fun. Understand that? So once you understand that this is where you want to get and how it feels, you need to cultivate this resonance. You need to cultivate this vibrational frequency, you know, and to stay there in this happiness, in this self-containment, you know, in this harmony with who you want to become. This is hard work. I don't say that's easy, but I say that's how it goes. All right? I hope you loved it. Comment down there. I'm very curious to understand what you think about all this. I'm very happy if you want to subscribe. Thank you very much for that. Welcome to our community here. And see you in the next video. I'm curious what you're going to say. Bye-bye.